Welcome back to the Disrupt Education podcast. I threw that back out there. We're back.
You could feel it if you're on YouTube.
Yes. Bam. If you have like headphones on, you're like, what just happened? But no, what is like wow. I mean, I love this series. I love the Crushing It series. I especially love talking to fresh out of high school students. Um, but failing chemistry, I don't know. I don't know if you want to start there.
Well, okay. I mean, uh, failing chemistry could be a meme, and our last guest, Samantha, would say, the chemistry teacher better have some memes that are current because it's cringe otherwise. We
Right.
had a an awesome guest. The conversation was so fun,
Mhm.
and it, I'm still around youth, but it's like when you meet someone new that is in the high school or young adult phase of their life, it's palpable, the energy. If you even listen to that podcast, you're gonna feel it. And Gen Z, they don't care. Like they will tell you straight up. Like
Mhm.
I love that about Sam, and
Yeah.
she was very, very open. And I like that she's like, yeah, I mean, like I'm on this series, but I still failed things. Like she's just so open, and it didn't seem to bother her at all,
Mhm.
which is great because she is like, I don't know where she got this perspective, intrinsically, extrinsically, like, but the line in the podcast about how like high school is 1/20th of your life, eh, you know, who cares, right? Like, take from it what you can and move on. So if you haven't listened to it, she's got some zingers. It's great.
Mhm.
And we're just like on a high from the conversation because it was so fun and just free flowing and perfect for our summer series.
I love the fact that and I never thought of this before, but there were three generations who were literally working together and understanding education, right? Like you're millennial, I'm Gen X, she was Gen Z. And it's funny how I think everything is starting to line up, right? Like, and I don't think it's just us three, obviously. I think it's to me that was something that really struck me about, we've had Gen Zers on before, and I just never thought of it that way. And to really come and take a look at like all the things that she said, that Sam said, and then how we can take these things forward and just crush it as educators no matter where you are, right? What you're doing. I mean, talk about you giving she said experiences and exposure. I mean, jumping out of a plane is like one of the ultimate exposures of awesomeness, I think, I mean, I've never free fall, but I can imagine maybe I'll do that, like, tandem. So we'll be like the Disrupt Education tandem once you're there. But no, like that was very interesting. And I think that gives everybody out there hope about, look, let's all just get to the table, right? Because there are Gen Z educators out there now, right? Like they've
There
already
are.
moved into the professional world of education. I think there's just so many places, and where do you want to begin on unpacking this one, Alli?
There was a little line that you might have heard it, you might not. She kind of slipped it in. But she was talking about how high school, if you want your hand held, you can. And it's your privilege because education will hold your hand through high school. And then they'll say, see you later, bye. And I thought I had never really thought about it that way. But I feel as though education coddles and handholds too much.
Hmm.
And, that she didn't say it directly, but it's like she was getting at the fact that like I didn't need my hand held. Like you guys held me back. And I don't know that I had that perspective in high school, but like looking back, yes, I was given a great education for the time, and the teachers were great and everything, but I was definitely in an environment where I was told what to do, when to do it, how to do it, was assessed on it, and that is just so outdated.
Hmm.
It but to view it as a privilege, like it is your privilege, but like, okay, if that is, what if you make a choice to not be so coddled, not be so in the structure, right? So I think I liked her idea of like, some kind of maturity test, some kind of like, you can choose if you want, you can go and do the traditional hand holding way, or you can do your self-paced structure and move forward faster. It doesn't need to be this everyone in a box,
Hmm.
kumbaya. We're all gonna hold each other's hands and move at the same pace at the same time.
Hmm.
And it was refreshing to hear that.
I never thought of it that way as well, right? Like in is I think if I were to reflect back way back onto my high school education, um, way before 2016 memes, I would have to say like I didn't even know that was an option to move faster, right? Like it was like you're supposed to just, do your trigonometry and do your history lessons and do what you had to do. Um, and I think now with the information age like just becoming so prevalent, right? There's so much information out there. There's so much exposure, which is a good thing and a bad thing, obviously. And then we can go back into the phone thing. But I think now students start to see, or younger people start to see, I can go faster.
Hmm.
She kind of attributed to money, right? I can make money faster, right?
Yep.
And that's fine, but other people are like, I can do my education faster. You hear the stories of the people who are graduating high school with an associate's degree at the same time, right? You see people who are already, licensed to do some amazing maybe trade or, do something possibly like I'm a professional welder when I'm 18 or 17. At the time that we're recording this, it's the big soccer tournament, right? The Euro one, and I just saw Spain beat a team, and they're going into the finals. Everybody probably knows what happened by now, but they have a 16-year-old playing who scored, like a 16-year-old on this team, professional Spain's professional team. Like we are moving faster. It's good and bad. I think that people need to experience their age, experience those things. But I think it's time, like Sam was saying, is we start to look at, are we now starting to waste time of people who want to move faster? That was
Hmm.
key. And that was something that I'm taking from that as well, is, moving faster. I didn't know that was an option. What if we gave that as an option in high school? Because students are finding ways to not have their time waste in school. And it's coming through sometimes in positive ways, like Sam was going through, different times during the day where she can, work on things for herself. But also it's coming through in negative ways because there are very high attendance rate problems, right? So people
Hmm.
are like, I'm going to do it my way regardless. Something big there underneath there, Alli.
I agree. And if you listen to the stories that Sam shared, her favorite memories were all in-person experiences.
Hmm.
And they were not, electronic things. She talked about, this DECA event,
Yep.
and she mentioned events and networking and exposure in real time and career day type examples, but she really envisioned it on a much larger scale. And the value of that has to be greater than sitting and doing algebra problems for 2 hours.
Hmm.
I just has to, right? So, right, if we're in this information digital age, which we are, the information is available. Okay. So if you need to learn something, you can. And even you can even learn it from social media because if you start searching for it, the algorithm will feed it to you for months, right?
Mm-hmm.
So learning is available when you want to, when the light bulb clicks. So then schools should be prioritizing in-person experiences and exposure to like what else can I experience besides the existential crisis that is this black box,
Mm-hmm.
right? Your
Right.
phone, your devices. And if students are given the opportunity to be on their phone, the maturity thing with the phone, I think, is evolving. There, a lot of people, myself, probably yourself, this spans generations, know they have a phone issue of some kind. It's
Mm-hmm.
just so there, technology is so present. So then like it's the reverse, and it's not going backwards to like, more structure in a schoolhouse, type thing, but what kind of experiences and events and community building and just talking and socializing and networking and thinking. It's almost like I'm picturing, in some ways, when I picture ancient like Rome or the ancient Greeks sitting around like in the sun eating grapes and cheese, and they're like philosophy, right? They're theorizing, they're ideating, and it's it's not boring. That they're like literally thinking like what could be the sun and the stars and the trees and the wind and whatever they're experiencing. And like
Mm-hmm.
those types of experiences would look different now, but something that involves like creativity and conversation and people.
Mm-hmm.
I think schools have a big opportunity to do that, because if kids want to learn chemistry and put their TikTok on chemistry land, they can.
Mm-hmm.
you know if they want to look at dog memes, they can. If they want to learn about stocks, you can. And Sam said just that, I thought that was super interesting. And so you have the rest of your life, the other 19/20ths of your life, to learn what you want to learn. So like, how can we maximize that 1/20th that's really age appropriate, develops maturity, develops ideas and events that move the needle forward to exposure, because you have these kids at their time in their life when they're really thinking about potentially the next multitudes of their life. They
Mm-hmm.
feel this pressure. So how can we put it in perspective that, you can change, you can adapt, you can do lots of things with your life, and you don't have to make all of your decisions in this time. Like exposure is really important at that age.
Yeah. And along with that exposure, I'm thinking, her story of in the medical field versus going somewhere else, right? And really understanding what it is, having conversations with people, seeing what it's like, and doing that more and more and scaling that for kids in general. And I don't think, I know we're talking a lot about secondary school, but like I think that a lot of the schools, including my new district, are really taking a look at the way that younger people are exposed. I mean, we're talking like third, fourth, fifth graders are exposed to people, and it's always people first, by the way, Alli. You're right. It's always like you're in person, and you're not just exposed to, this slideshow on being a pilot or this slideshow on being a chemist. It's like you're actually talking to people. You're in places that are beyond the classroom, or the classroom is brought to the places are brought to a classroom. And I really think that what Sam was talking about there was hitting it right on the head, around kind of a hybrid. Where are we wasting? It's more individualistic
Mm-hmm.
education, if you will. Where are we wasting time for certain students depending on their maturity levels or where they are in a subject matter or what have you? And then where can we accelerate, right? Where are they good at this moment in time? And where can we build that? I think there's so much here to unpack. I mean, it's going to be way beyond this podcast, but like it really gets people thinking, going into your classrooms or going into your place of education, and really start learning from each other and building individualized pieces.
Mm.
Maybe that meme didn't work for her. Maybe it worked for three other students. Maybe it didn't work for any of them. But like, but the key is finding that out. And I think that's just crushing it. I mean, I really, really love the way that she put that out there. Just that exposure, those events, we build events constantly around it. A lot of this reminds me of Iowa Big and what
Mm,
they're doing around, just taking the students' individual interest at a certain time and then building curriculum around it, like it's a project or just an event or maybe a competition or something. Incubator programs do this, like Incubator EDU. They do that with a lot of entrepreneurship pieces, but it doesn't have to be entrepreneurship. I mean, it can be, anything. And I think that opened up my thought process on exactly what you're saying is in person, nothing's, if you need to check the box, check the box, but in person, you're not going to check the box. You're going to be like, all right, let's go. So that's so much, so much. And the college schedule or the European model schedule. If you look at the European model schedule at a lot of European places, throughout the world, their education model is a little bit different, especially when you get into secondary. It's, not to say it's better or worse, but it's just different. It's like, you go to noon, you go off into lunch somewhere, and it's usually not in the school, and then you come back and you do, then that's where you experience things. And that's what Sam did her senior year, because she was basically done after, I can't remember which period, but like fourth or fifth period, and you have the rest of the day, very interesting. My mind is like spinning. I hope everybody's mind's spinning right now.
I hope it is
Yeah.
because there's room for disruption in the current generation. And like really we're at the tail end of Gen Z being in high school. It's just a
Hmm.
couple more years and then you hit Gen Alpha.
Hmm.
Right? You're really looking at somewhere around 12 to like some will say, the freshmen right now are the end of Gen Z, and so we're getting into Gen Alpha. I'm like, what does that mean? And are we going to keep repeating the cycle of education
Hmm.
with the next generation? Or are we going to really seriously change and innovate now and disrupt now and just go for it? Because they're all waiting for it. Like
Right.
I feel the impatience every year of youth being like, is it really gonna just keep being like this? We've got all of this innovation and technology at our fingertips, and we can't change the structure of the school model. Now, sometimes you just don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But right, like I feel like every passing year that these youth become young adults and then like reflect back into high school and they realize like, oh, what? Like it's gonna be like the dark ages. Not like actually, like there's plenty of good in schools, and that we're not saying that
Right.
it's bad, but at the same time, it's being left behind, like the divide
Hmm.
between the age gap that's kind of Sam mentioned, right? Like as Gen Z gets out of high school and then we get into Gen Alpha, like how much how much wider is that gap going to be? And also, for those who are listening who are young professionals, right? So there are Gen Zs in the workforce. They're about
Hmm.
20, 22 to 25 is
Hmm.
about the age range that, so they're young professionals. You have a ton of opportunity to speak up and use your very uh, uh I would just say like they're just more honest. They'll just
Hmm.
call things out.
Hmm.
And we need more of that. So like don't be afraid if you are a young professional, if you're, millennial or Gen X and you're hearing this and you like want to change and adapt and you want to vocalize things that you maybe felt like you couldn't. Here's Sam, 18, and she's not holding back, and like you can do it in a professional way, but also say like we need to change.
Hmm.
And there's power in more people saying that, having those conversations, and you can't shy away from them.
Right.
It just, change won't happen if we all just kind of sit back and relax and just let another year pass us
Hmm.
by without anything changing.
I hear, that I think that they're one of the things that is that opportunity that we're talking about to crush it, especially for Gen Z. And I know a lot of Gen Z educators. And you're right. I think it attributes to some of the, hey, they're not coming into the profession because it's not changing fast enough. However, the ones that I do see, who are in classrooms and they understand there's autonomy in the classroom. And even though there are places that you need to hit because of the state or whatever the laws are, I've seen some amazing things the younger generation educators are doing. And I think that's just a spark, like how are you doing things different? I was able to be a part of a calculus class. It was kind of a remote, weird thing that, there had to be an adult in the room, but I got to see a younger teacher in there who might have been right on the line of millennial and Gen Z. And his approach was way different. The way that he worked with students in that classroom, online and in person,
Mm,
man, I learned a lot, and it was so different. So I think that the fact that we were three generations in the last podcast, I mean, you can do that in your school. I mean, I think it's as teachers we start to get set in our ways, and it's just with anything. It's, I mean, in any industry, but I think what keeps it exciting for those who want to stay in it is really seeing how people are doing it differently, whether it's
mm,
1 hour or whatever. So if you're a school leader, make sure that that is happening, in your school. Hopefully people are opening doors and opening time frames, to where it's not a burden for you to do that. But sometimes it is. It's going to be a burden for you to do it, but do it, right? Like jump into somebody else's classroom who's a different generation of yours. There's so much exciting stuff that you can pull from it. Even if the class absolutely sucks, you can learn something from it, right?
yeah.
Like, and that I think is the amazing part of being an educator, or basically being in any industry. So, I think I'm just taking that, being around passionate individuals was one more thing that Sam said. She was at the DECA state competition, which means that there were top X amount of students who got to go. So they were actually in it. But again, like if you can imagine, like if you, it's always the five people who are around you, right? If you're going to be around five people who are like, let's go, let's create, let's do something, let's crush it, let's do something different, you're going to do something different. You're going to crush it. You're going to be innovative. If you're around people who are going to be just like, oh, I can't wait till I retire, da da da, da, then you're going to be like that. Like, Sam said that in a different way as a learner. And I
Hmm.
think this is the year where if you want to crush it in anything that you're doing, you need to be around people who are ready to innovate, ready to go. Be like Alli, right? The weather sucks up here. I'm coming to Illinois and jumping, right? Like, let's go, which was
Do
awesome.
that.
But things like that, right? Like those, that's why people want, that's how people grow. So I heard that with Sam. And it's hard when you're in a classroom when you're maybe the only one who is that innovative person or that mature person. So I think we need to look at strategies there. But it does open up the question of how can we get more innovative together with more people who are, have the same kind of thoughts or the same kind of interest, if you will, not thoughts, but interest around something, and then just let them go, create sandboxes, events in schools.
I think even though Sam didn't say this on the podcast, I feel tension oftentimes between, you know, different age groups, people set in their ways. And it doesn't have to be like a generational thing, just
Right.
the
Yeah.
lack of neuroplasticity at
Hmm.
times. And
Exactly.
what I would say to the educational system is like if someone is presenting a new idea or, and something that seems like, whoa, that's way different, it try to fight the immediate no response, no way response. How could we respond? And like, if someone else can see it as a possibility, try and like maybe find a compromise or some way to start small with that idea and watch it grow. Like, fight the urge to like push back immediately on an idea from a young person, because truly that's one of the reasons we love having new graduates, is they're just chock full of ideas and energy that is so palpable. And over time in life, it's so easy to just like kind of become more dull, and you're not pushing yourself or learning as much. And it's normal, it's normalized. Like Sam
Mhm.
was saying, social media is normalized. Well, the getting set in your ways has become normalized with businesses and with education. And it's like the ruts get deeper if we don't pick a different path. And so I would really encourage, as we're getting closer to the end of summer when this podcast comes out, like,
Mhm.
really try to resist the urge to just shut down new ideas.
Mhm.
Maybe try a year of like, what if? Why not?
Mhm.
How could we? Let's try it. How, like, those types of phrases are so powerful. And let people try and develop stuff. Give them the
Mhm.
ability to see what they can do. If they're like proposing an idea that they're passionate about, there's power in that passion. And it might not be perfect, but it's a start.
Mhm.
And I think just allowing that kind of thing to grow is huge opportunity in education right now.
The quote unquote tagged worst students are the ones that I've learned the most from. And it's just that, Ellie. It's asking the question. And when you ask this question, it actually makes them, it levels them up to think about whatever you're teaching them. So, for instance, I'm sure I've had many bad business students who are just like, "Ah, I know everything about business," or I don't like the way we're doing this. And I know I've gotten that. And so I would challenge a student. I'm like, okay, I get it, man. Like, I've got to do this part for the class. How would you do it? Right? In an individual conversation at a lunch table, in a study hall, or whatever, right? And yes, does it take my time? Does it, yeah, whatever. But when I've done that, I have come up with, I've heard amazing answers
Hmm.
and come up with way different curriculum to keep me current and as exciting as I can be in front of youth, right? I'm almost 52 years old, right? I know I look really young. But when you're in front of an 18-year-old, like I can't talk about, tape decks and 8 tracks and things like that. I mean, in my day, I mean, as much as you want to do it, because we walked uphill both ways in the snow to school, da 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 da. If you skip school, then you got, in trouble at home, blah blah blah, all these things. That's not changing, right? And yes, each generation is different, but each generation is kind of the same, like you said. They don't know what they don't know. However, in order for you to help them get to see what they don't know, you have to challenge them and say, "How would you fix it? Tell me.
Yep.
I need this." And what you just said there is exactly how I think great educators move along the line of their whole lifetime as an educator and stay relevant,
Mm.
because they're taking that risk. They're letting youth kind of figure things out on their own. Because let's be honest, Allie, what are we doing when we do that? We are not like hovering and boxing in a kid. We're actually opening up the world to them and saying, try it. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Like a week later, you tried a different approach that they wanted, and you're like, well, this is what I'm seeing, that everybody that I know who has done that, are really still in it. Look, it's not all rainbow and sunshines, but like that's the path of anything. That's how business stays relevant. That's how educators stay relevant. That's how anybody kind of stays relevant with what's going on. So, um, wow, lot there.
So much there. Those are some great final thoughts, I think,
Yeah.
Peter. Got anything else?
I mean, I really do think, the buy-in thing that she was saying, what really changed her was being around people who were challenged with similar things and were in it to play ball, meaning the DECA competition. She really did change, and I'm talking about Sam, our last guest, so go back and listen to that podcast. Um, and those are the times in a student's life when you see that change, you're like, oh hell yeah, let's go. And she has challenged me. And yeah, were there days where she just sat in class and was just like, oh my gosh, and I felt it like I want to go faster, but I can't. Yeah, and those are frustrating days, but it's constantly challenged me as an educator to start thinking, okay, what can I do? What can I do? And there would be conversations that I would say, okay, well, you got 10 minutes. Why don't you reach out to 3 people on LinkedIn or blah, blah, blah. That to me is just probably what Sam has really helped me as an educator realize is, and we've talked about it already on this podcast, is how can we speed up or not waste people's times once they get something in our class. And it really comes down to individualized education.
Yep. It's
No.
great.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, I think that conversation was so fun. I know me and you are just super energized by it.
hmm
It's summertime. We're crushing it. We're the way she answered the relentless question was just unique, like, and she, I, I don't remember if this was said on or off the podcast, but it's
hmm
just kind of funny that like she was like, well, I interviewed for this thing. I didn't know what, I didn't get the job, but it was because I didn't know about this topic.
hmm
And so then after the call, I just started learning it. And now I just keep picturing her algorithm is going to show her like more of that content because it's
hmm
out there, like right, we're in the digital age.
Yeah.
And so I think that is the final thought I was thinking about is that education, like you could show students how to use the platforms they already want to be on at this point and get them to search things so that it's literally in front of them on the device that they want to be on anyway. And so I don't know, like there are ways to kind of integrate technology and have it do the work for you so that in person can be in person, right?
hmm
And maximize the in-person time and then get them to like do the learning through whatever medium they want outside of that in-person time and just kind of reimagine what in-person school structure, even if you have to be in a traditional model, how can you maximize that time to really be present and be in person rather than being on your phones?
There you go. That's it. Well, I love that. And guess what? We are scheduling another student. So you're going to see, well, not a recent graduate as well. So we've got plenty more to come on this series. We're still coming up on the end of a summer. I know when July hits, people are like, but that for some reason this year, it's the conversations, it's to change in my role and where I'm at. It's so many new opportunities and try to find those opportunities. We're going to continue to help you crush it coming into a new school year or just a new season. You don't even have to be an educator in school, right? So I look forward to more conversations like this. Um, Great energy in this one. Go back to the last one if you have not heard Sam talk. She's just an amazing young person, and we can all learn something from young people, younger than us anyway. Anyway, so check us out every week. Keep stay in tune here because we're going to have some more coming up as well. We appreciate you guys listening. Thank you so much. For Alli Privitt, I'm Peter Hostrawser. Catch us next week again on the Disrupt Education Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of the Disrupt Education Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode.
Are you ready to disrupt the educational arena you're a part of? For more ways to get involved in the work we do here at Disrupt Education, check us out at disrupteducation.co. or find us on LinkedIn at Peter Hostrawser or Alli Privitt.
Our mission here is to help facilitate and amplify changes in the educational system through local initiatives and help you scale them into community movements. Our building network of disruptors in education are working to move beyond scores and grades as the only measure for student learning. If your school district, college, campus, or organization is looking for facilitators of this work, reach out on our website or social media.
And if you have any thoughts or feedback on this week's episode or any episode, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, taking risks, and most importantly, disrupting education.